Alright, in this video we are going to look at how to grab pictures from EarthPorn, NaturePorn, SpacePorn, wherever you want to grab these pictures from. If you haven't visited any of these Reddit pieces, have a look at them. There's some really nice pictures. They're updated on the regular basis. Given you go to this new piece. EarthPorn, look, 3 minutes ago, 7 minutes ago, 12 minutes ago, not all of them are updated as often, but nonetheless, you can get a picture, a new background very often for your custom live wallpaper. This does involve Tasker, quite a bit of coding. Again, let me go ahead and give my little disclaimer right off the bat. I am no expert at coding. I learn as I go. I'm sure there are better ways to do this, but this works for me. I'm taking the if it ain't broke, don't fix it approach. I think I finally found something that doesn't break, I guess. At least I haven't had it happen yet. Not to say it can't happen. Nonetheless, let me show you what I got going on here. So on my phone, this is a background that's actually pulled from, I think, EarthPorn. So I tell you what, up here at the top, see how it says current image CityPorn? I'm tapping on CityPorn with my finger, and it says nature porn, we got water porn, mushroom porn, etc., etc. And whichever one I want, if I come down here and tap on check for new image, I'm tapping on check for new image, give it about 5 or 6 seconds, and bam, notice it loaded a new wallpaper. I tell you what, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to duplicate this page, and I'm going to do weather porn. Now, here's the catch. I'm going to show you what's going on, and then I'm going to show you how to do it. So, going back to the phone, you might say, well, hey, this isn't the current image that's up here. Well, here's the thing. I have it coded, so I'm only pulling JPEGs. Some of these pictures are not JPEGs, or they're not linked directly to the JPEG. For example, if you look at the link down here across the bottom of the screen, I'll have it highlighted. Notice there, that is not a .jpeg. That one right there is not a .jpeg. Again, look at the bottom of the screen right here as I highlight these pictures. So that one's not .jpeg. That one is not .jpeg. Oh, look at that one. NationalGeographic.com, blah, 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 blah. Look at the end of that. .jpeg. That's the first one that is a .jpeg. Well, notice that picture, .jpeg, is what I have on my phone. Okay? I'll tell you what, let's go check a few more real quick. I'll tell you what, I'll go to, what was another one that I had up there? Mushroom porn. So let me type in mushroom. There's plenty of them. And you can get other ones from over here too. I'm going to talk about that in a little while. So again, looking at the links, first one is a .jpeg. So I tell you what, since I already have this on my phone, or at least I have mushroom porn, I'm going to come over here. I can tap on this. SpacePorn, EarthPorn. You may see a little Tasker notification. That's just for me for testing purposes. Where's mushroom porn? There we go. Check for new image. Give it a second. Bam. Check it out. And since that first one was a .jpeg, there you go. So I hope you see how you can really, once you apply this on top of color extracting, you can really get some nice looking wallpapers. And they can change drastically with the colors, as you can see. So, how do we do this? I got two things here. These are actually linked to Tasker. These are Tasker tasks. Basically, I'm changing essentially, when I tap on that button on my phone, I am changing, when I tap this, I'm changing the link in the address in Tasker. Then when I click check for new image, I have a task that runs, that scans through all these images and looks for the first JPEG, and then it saves that JPEG on my phone, and then it shoots it to KLWP. It's a lot of coding involved here. Again, I'm no expert. This is what's worked for me. I have tried several methods. I've been working on this off and on for about a month. Really hard working on it for like the last 2 or 3 days. That's why I haven't posted any videos. Plus, I do have a life outside of this. But nonetheless, I'm excited. I think I finally have something that works. So with all that said, let's go look into Tasker. We got 2 tasks inside of Tasker that we need to create. And before we jump into those, I want to talk about some global variables in Tasker. Global variables in Tasker have to have a capital letter, or I started with a capital letter. So anything that starts with a capital letter is a global variable in Tasker. It can be used in any task. Any variable that you want, what's called a local variable. Local variables in Tasker can only be used within the task that you use them in. You can't transfer a local variable from one task to another. So with that said, the first thing we're going to look at is count which is just a number. And then we're going to look at which pick. Now you can create, and I'll go ahead and create which pick right now. If you want to follow this exact technique, you can call it whatever you want, but if you want to follow my exact technique here, you don't have to use these exact names. Create a variable, boom, plus, type in whatever you want to type in, blah, blah, blah. And then when you type that in, go back and find that variable on this list. For example, I created which pick, and if you tap on that, I can actually add and take away items. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I have 7 items in this thing. And then when I do this, you might not see these yet, but I will show you how to get these in a second. This is one global variable that we're going to split by commas. If we split this thing where the commas are, we get 7 different pieces, and we get 7 new global variables. All right, what if you want to add something to it? Check this out. So notice I don't have, what's something I don't have up here? How about beach porn? Okay. If I go into here and I put a comma and I type in beach porn, because beach porn is another place that we can pull a picture from. There are not endless, but there's a lot of places we can pull pictures from. So check. Now, what did not happen is I do not have a which pick 7. Well, watch what this task will do here. I'm going to show you how to create this. So which pick, let me run it one time. Boom. It's ran it. It's doing something. It's sending a variable to KLWP. Now watch this. If I go back to my variables, I now have a which pick number 8. So how do we separate this thing into its separate pieces like this? Because these are the words that I'm going to be sending to KWWP. Like which pick 1, when I send that to KWWP, it's going to show EarthPorn, and that's how you were seeing EarthPorn on my wallpaper a while ago. Or which pick 2, city porn, etc., etc., etc. And notice as I add items, it will add items here. It all changes dynamically, and it all works great with KWWP. So here's how we do that. Going back to that task that I just showed you, which pick, first of all, I was talking about splitting that list up with a comma. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm choosing variable split. I'm using that variable percentage which pick, and then I'm splitting it with a comma. What that will do, as soon as you do that, it will split it up into which pick 1, which pick 2, which pick 3, as you saw on the variable screen a few minutes ago. Now, what is which pick pound? That code right there, which pick pound, will return the number of items you have in your list. For example, let me just go ahead and add, and this is perfect for debugging. If I go to Flash and I do which pick. Oh, come on. Oh, there it is. All right, if I just flash this for right now, okay, I'm just going to run this whole task again. Boom. Beach porn, and then bam. Okay, now where's this thing? Okay, let me take this one off. That's flashing whichever one is currently getting sent to KWWP. So I'm going to cut that one off, just that little power button. Now, watch. This is the only thing you're going to see flash up on the screen. It's flashing up that whole list. But now if I come back in here and do which pick 1, which pick 2, which pick 3, let me do which pick 3. This will be the third item in that list. The third item in that list is nature porn. Obviously, this thing will change, and that's what I have going on here based on the other variable count which. But before I jump into that, let me talk about what I meant to show you was when we do parentheses and pound, like that. Let's apply that. Now this is going to return a number, 8. 8 is the number of items I have in my list. Well, if I go back and I take away, let's go take away one of our items. You can add items, you can take items away. Where are we at? Here. Okay, let's take away mushroom porn. Just make sure you keep them separated with a comma, just like that. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I tell you what, we'll take one more. Take away one more just for the heck of it. Let's take away city porn. And at the same time, when we send this to KWWP, when we run this task, it's going to update it, everything, and it's going to be nice. So how many do we have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. check. Let me go back to my task. Let me run this task and watch what number is going to flash now. Whoops, I don't need to do that. I just need to press play. And look, 6. So here's what's happening. That count which I mentioned earlier, which is just a number, if that number is less than the number of items in my list, when I run this little task, it's going to add 1 to count which. Notice it says variable add count which value 1. So you just go to variable add, do count which, add a value of 1. You got to have a little bit of experience with Tasker, but I will try to slow down for certain parts. And what this thing's going to do is going to keep on adding 1 as long as count which is less than the number of items. So since we have how many items now? Remember 6. Once it gets up to 6, it's going to go and reset count which to 1. So this is what's letting me cycle through the items in my list. Now, remember this flash thing that I cut off? I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. Let me cut this one off. Basically, by cutting it off, it's just not going to run that particular piece of the task. I'm going to cut this one back on. And now watch as I run this. Okay, SpacePorn. What came after SpacePorn? I don't know, but if I run it again, it's going to run the next one, BeachPorn. Then it's going to go to EarthPorn. And what it's doing, this little piece right here, is flashing which pick 1, which pick 2, which pick 3. Because remember, count which is just a number. So which pick 1, which pick 2, which pick 3. And it will change dynamically as you add and remove items from your list. So we got variable add, we got variable set. We set that variable to 1 whenever it's not going to be less than which pick, the number of items in which pick. You don't have to flash it. Flashing is for testing purposes. And then KLWP send variable. Call this whatever you want in the custom variable. I'm going to call it which pick. You can call it whatever you want. And we want to send the word SpacePorn, EarthPorn, etc., etc. And notice by me not typing in SpacePorn, EarthPorn, if I type in which pick with this, and notice I do have a parentheses here on the end, that's going to send which pick 1, which pick 2, which pick 3, which pick 4, or how many ever we have. And remember, which pick 1, 2, 3, 4, and all those, if I scroll on down to my globals, it's going to send that word right there. So that's how I was getting that to pop up in KWWP. Task number 1, complete, which pick. Remember, we did use globals for both of them, because the count which and the which pick, because they're going to be used in this one. This is how we pull the image from whatever website. But before I do that, notice I have a JSON bugged. I don't know if it's JSON. I'm going to probably say it both ways in this video. I've just started really messing around with this over the past week. I'm no expert, but I did get this to work, and it works pretty nice. This is the one that was bugged. I've tried doing things where basically I'm pulling all these images, I'm looping through them, looking for one that is a JPEG, and if it's not a JPEG, I have it going back and doing all this stuff again. But what I found, and I don't know where I was going wrong, because sometimes it worked great, sometimes it didn't. I don't know. But sometimes I found that it would jump right over to JPEG. But then I could come up here and change this number and it pulled a JPEG, so it drove me crazy. So I found an alternative solution, and this one works nicely. So JSON working. Something else I'm going to create, a new global variable too, is pick count. You can go back into your vars, create a pick count the same way you create a count which. So JSON working. And I got, if the percent pick count is less than 4, I want to add 1 to it. Otherwise, I want to reset it back to 1. Basically, when we go to save this image, when we finally pull our JPEG from this website, whichever one it may be, once we finally pull it, we're going to either save it as like pick 1, or it might be pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, and then it'll go back to pick 1. And the reason why I do this is 2 reasons. One, you can change this number to whatever you want. I'd recommend doing at least less than 2. That way you can have, you don't want to be overwriting a file every single time, because it will not update in KWWP automatically. That's at least that's what I've been through. So by us sending the same variable to KWWP but having a different file name, think about that. We're sending the same KWWP variable name, but the file is going to be named different. It's going to be pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4. And KLWP will pick that up and it will redisplay that image quickly, as you've already seen. I think that's important. So pick count, less than 4, how many ever you want to save on your thing. And that's just like count which, really, where we reset it back to 1. So end if. Now, here we go. Let's rock and roll with this HTTP GET. All right, reddit.com. So HTTP GET, reddit.com, and then notice I think you can put all this up here, but if you just want to do it like I'm doing it, that's fine. Notice if I come right here and I type in let me do new.json. This is what we have to read through, or let Tasker read through, to pull the JPEG. But there's JPEG scattered all in here. Look, JPEG, JPEG, JPEG. Some of these are thumbnails, some of these are not high quality. There's a specific place on all of these, mushroom porn, EarthPorn, SpacePorn, all of these, where we can get a good quality image every time, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So this is the website, reddit.com. It's going to pull this JSON off of this website. And now notice I got % which pick, % count which. Remember, that thing right there is going to return a word. EarthPorn, mushroom porn, space porn, beach porn, whatever you have in that list, that's exactly what's going to go in that spot. And that's what's going to fill in that space. So we can change these quickly without having to come in here and manually type them in every time. I hope that makes sense. What do I want to do with this thing? My personal opinion, you don't have to do this, but I like to save it to a text file because I like to troubleshoot, debug, just in case something's messed up. And I've wore out my text files when I export them. So I'm actually going to be using this in a minute too when we go to export it. But let me explain a few more things to you. So here you can just pick a file, pick somewhere on your phone, save it there if you want to refer back to it. Once we get that, we want to turn right back around and read that file. So we got HTTP GET, that's a Tasker action. Now we want to read file. We want to read that same file. So basically that same location you saved it, go back and read it, and let's store it as you can do a local variable. You don't have to do a global variable. Notice I have no capital letters here. So I just called it %JSON pick, because it's going to pull, well, we're going to start looking through some pics at least. I'm going to use this in Tasker. I'm pulling it. I'm saving it as a local variable. That's all I'm doing there. JavaScript. Okay, this is where the first crazy bit of coding comes in. Now, I'm sure there's other ways of doing this, but this is the way that I got it to work, and it worked for me every time. It has not messed up on me yet. There's one thing I'm questioning about all of this, and I'll deal with it when it comes. It's not a big deal to me. I'll explain that to you as well when we get there in a minute. All right. Now, back on these websites, for example, all these EarthPorn / new, there's going to be, from what I can gather, 25 images. Okay? So what we want to do within this thing here, there's going to be 25 URLs that have high quality images. Some of those will be JPEGs. Hopefully at least one will be a JPEG. That's the only thing I'm wondering about, is if I don't have a JPEG, but we'll talk about that in a second. So this is a JSON file, and I tell you, now this right here looks crazy. Let me go ahead and run this thing one time, and I'll show you where all this stuff is coming from. Let me cut this on. This is just for teaching purposes. Where's my other right? Oh, here and here. Both of those, I need those on. Oh, that one never selected. And I think, let me double check. All right, everything's ready to roll. I want to show you like how we can split these variables and all that stuff. So I just ran the whole thing, no errors, great. And what I want to do now is I want to go and I will send these to Google Drive, and I'm going to open them right up on my computer. So notice all of these files, they were just written as 136 because my Tasker task wrote these files. This is for teaching and testing purposes. I'm going to send these to my Google Drive, and I'm going to open them right up on the computer. So this was just done. All right, now let me find them. Did it send them? Okay, they're coming in. There we go. So here they are. All right. First things first. Go back into Tasker. All right, remember when I said at the beginning, HTTP GET, we get that, we're going to save it onto the phone, and we're going to save it as get JSONpic.text. So that's this thing right here. That is very similar to that. It's the exact same thing, except maybe I'm not pulling mushroom porn. But it's the same idea. It's the same funky stuff. And let me show you what we're going to have to do with this thing. So this is get JSONpic. We take that thing, we read it, and then we're going to have to do some JSON parsing on this. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this file that Tasker is reading, and I'm going to show you how Tasker is doing this and how to code that. So I'm going to take all that, I'm going to copy it, and the one I'm going to use is Pretty Print. That should be, there's other ones, there's like Beautify or something like that. I think this one will be fine. Let me paste all that funky stuff, and watch how this organizes it for us. All right, looking at our code, I'm gonna make this half a screen, that way we can still see our phone. We're ready to do the JavaScript. Remember how I said we had 25 pictures? Well, notice I have varpic0, varpic1, varpic2, varpic3, all the way to varpic24. So that does make 25 pictures since we have a 0 in there. Now, JSONparse, this is like a JSON file. I don't know much about it, but I do know enough to explain this to you. Okay, we're parsing local and then JSONpic. Now, remember how we named that Tasker variable right up here? Where'd you go? When we did read file, remember how we named it as a local variable JSONpic? Well, when you do this Java type stuff, you can't use the % symbols. What we do here, or maybe you can, I don't know, but this is working for me. Notice I have local and then JSONpic in apostrophes. So it's parsing that file. It's parsing this file because this is that file that Tasker is reading right now. Now it has data.children, brackets with a 0, .data.url. And notice all of them have that. Well, look at some of the key words here. Data. So it's taking that thing, and here's how I see it. It's reading through it. It's reading data, so it sees that. Then beneath that, it wants to go to children, which is that right there. Now, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Basically, there's different regions or chunks, or what we call, I think they're called arrays, but it's chunks of stuff. Children. Now look at all this stuff right here. All of this that I'm highlighting, now keep in mind one thing. Notice that T3 right there? I'll tell you what, I'll start highlighting here. T3, kind T3. I'm going to keep on highlighting until I see another kind T3, and it's going to be down here a little ways. Did I go past it? Nope. Boom. All that stuff right there is one chunk. See all these URLs? See HT? Okay. What do we want to do inside of this one chunk? This is chunk 0. Even though it's the first chunk over here, we call it chunk 0. That's what I'm going to call it at least. All right. So we're in children. We're inside of this first chunk, chunk 0, .data. So data. Now you want to look for URL. Now you might say, okay, well, I see a URL right there. No, that's not how this works. We go data, children, then we see another data, boom. And then right beneath here, we don't want to go over any more to the right. We want to stay right here in this column until we find URL, or until Tasker finds URL, till whatever finds URL. So I don't see URL yet. I don't see it yet. I'm not looking at all this stuff because it's spaced over. I'm still looking right here in this column, looking in this column. I'm not talking about that one. Still looking in this column. Still looking in this column. I'm not talking about that one. I'm not talking, because to get to that, we'd have to do preview.images and some zeros or something. I don't want that one. The one we want is right here. Notice I kind of kept my mouse in the same column the whole time. This is the URL that we want Tasker to grab. So that thing right there is going to pull that. That is not a .jpeg, however, sometimes it may be. So that's chunk number 0. Now if I come down here to the next T3, which is right here close by, notice we're still under data.children. The data.children is way back up here. Data and children. Now we're still in data here, but we're in a new chunk. We're in this chunk. Where's my T3? So we're in children chunk number 1, which is really the second chunk over here. I know that can be a little bit confusing. But we want data.url. So remember how I scrolled through it a little while ago? Well, look, there's the next URL we're going to pull. So this piece here is pulling that one, and so forth. All right, all of these are laid up the same way. Notice that how it looked weird here. When we go to JSON pretty print, it cleans it up. And once you get real good at this, if you want to start pulling other crazy things, and actually I'm working on a weather underground using this same technique where I'm pulling weather conditions. I'm pulling icons like this for weather icons, and it's working really cool. I'm excited about it, but I wanted to show you this one first. So doing this JSON thing, this is the easiest way I found to do it so far. I'm sure there are easier ways, but this is what working for me. So bam, we go through all of this stuff. We got a whole bunch of chunks. Notice if I'm done with that one, I'm on to the next, look, T3. So I'm in a new piece, data. Then I want to go to URL, and it keeps on pulling them. So with all of this, that is right here. I'm going to look in the description. I'll make sure I mention it somewhere, like a little type. I'll type it in the beginning of the video. But there's all that. You can copy that and paste that right into Tasker. So var pick. This is how you define a variable in JSON, JavaScript, whatever. However, in Tasker, it needs to be %pick0, %pick1, %pick2, %pick3. Well, that's exactly what I'm going to do on the next line of my task, my next action. Variable set. So %JSON pick check. I'm ready to check for pictures. And what I'm doing, be careful here. Something to point out. I got pick 0, pick 1, pick 2, all the way up to pick 24. Basically, like var pick 18. See that var pick 18 right there, or any of these? Var pick 18 is the same thing as this in Tasker. This is like a JavaScript or some type of variable, but we can translate that to a Tasker variable. That's pretty much more or less what that means, to my understanding. So going back to our phone, we want to take, we're naming a variable, and we're taking all of these variables and we're kind of putting them in an array or a list. Remember how we did the which pick? We had like EarthPorn, BeachPorn, whatever. Well, all these have commas in them. So with that said, notice I did put them in. Notice I did put them in a particular order. The order does matter here. If you want to pull the most current one, this is what I found worked for me. We actually want to put pick 24, which is at the bottom of the EarthPorn or SpacePorn page, and we want to put the most current one at the end of this thing. You'll see why in a second. All right, so we got that done. Now what do we want to do? Take that variable. Oh yeah, this is for testing purposes. So I'm going to write this. Basically what I did here is I wrote this file, this %JSON pick check. I wrote that all those images, all these URLs that were pulled here that I showed you a minute ago, I wrote them to a file. So let me show you that file now. And basically here's what happened. We take this funky thing full of junk and we do that. We took all of that and condensed it down to this. And basically this is going to be 25 images. But notice these images have commas in them. Make this a little bit bigger. Probably should have made that one bigger too, but sorry about that. Let me zoom in. Is that going to help? Maybe. Yeah, there we go. All right. Why is it cut off? Oh, there we go. So we got like an image here. Then we got an image here. Then we got, oh, no, it keeps on going. I'm looking for commas. There's a JPEG right there. See that? Notice I'm just keeping on. Oh, there's a comma, because the commas are the commas that I used here. Okay? Now, remember what I said, though. This is not in the right order. Remember how I put the order in on my phone? The order that I put in on my phone, let me back up to here. Pick 24, that should be the last one on that page. whereas the most current one should be this one right here. I hope that makes sense. Now, if we go back and look, you might say, well, how can we see if this is the actual first URL? Well, if I go back to my pretty print, if I can find it, if I go back to my pretty print, remember I put pick 0 at the end of that thing. That's why I set the end. If I come back through here, scroll through here, look for URL, where'd you go? All right, look at that link right there, and look at that right there. Isn't that the same thing? You see what I'm saying? Boom, boom. Okay, let's go. And now I'm putting try to connect all the dots here. So I got this funky thing. I've pulled all these URLs out of all those chunks I was talking about, and since this is the last one on my list, the reason why that's the last one on this list is because I put pick 0, which is essentially the first chunk. Chunk 0. Remember me talking about that a few minutes ago? Now, if I go up here to pick 24, that should be the first one up here. This one right here. But where should that be on my JSON file? On my JSON file, it should be at the very end or close to the end. So let me scroll down here to the bottom. Now some of this stuff, well, there we go, right there at the end. Boom. So the last URL it pulled is going to be the first one that shows up here. You might say, okay, why'd you do that? Explain to me why you did that. Well, this is where the variable splitting comes into play, and it's a little bit of trial and error, but it works nicely. So let me go ahead and show you that now. Variable split. So let's take that variable. Oh, my bad. That says variable set. We've already done that. Write file. We've already done that. Variable search and replace. Here we go. All right. So what we want to do is we want to take this JSON pick check, which is going to be this thing right here. This is the file that I wrote it to. Remember that? Write file, all picks, write file, using JSON pick check. Okay? So what we want to do now is we want to search this thing. Tasker's going to search this thing, and it's going to look for a .jpeg, and I'm doing multi-line and one match only. I don't know what really happens. This is what worked for me. I can't really explain that too much to you. But here's what's going to happen. From my understanding, by looking at this, Tasker is looking backwards. Backwards. That's why I put the most current one here. So let's search through here until we find a JPEG. And to speed this up, let me go .jpg. Okay, there's only 2 up here. This is where it could get a little bit weird. Remember we talking about if it can't find a .jpeg? Well, the first one it's going to find if it searches backwards is going to be this right here. That's the first one it's going to find. Now our goal is to extract this website, or not this website, but this link, and we want to download this image, and we want to save this image to our phone. So how do we do that? All right, well, we're looking for it. To my understanding, it's going to look backwards, do a .*JPEG. I'm not too sure about the coding here. I did a little bit of reading on it. This is some type of Java maybe, or basically it takes care of anything in front of JPEG, to my understanding. Like that asterisk takes care of any character, any number of characters, or something like that. Store the matches in %JPEG found, because we found one, right? We found a JPEG. So that's why I called it that. Local variable, no need for capital letters. All right. So now what do we do? This is where maybe some of you who are good with Tasker, we should, granted we find something in here, JPEG found pound, the number of items in JPEG found, that variable I created by searching and replacing. Basically I'm saying if it's 0, then I want to flash some type of warning up on my phone, and I want to quit the whole task. And maybe you need to try another, like try EarthPorn if this one don't work, or try BeachPorn. It's not gonna lock your phone up or anything like that. But basically, it's just saying, hey, it can't find a JPEG in this list. But what if it does? Which we have found one. Well, what we want to do is we want to take this variable that we called JPEG found, and we want to look at the first item in that list. And I think it's only going to be 1 item. And let me show you. And the reason why I think it's only going to be 1, because I did 1 match only. So we want to look at it. Well, here's what it's going to return. You might say, well, dang, it should just return this right here. No, it's going to return all of this, I think. Well, let's see what it did. So I'm going to go to JPEG found 1. Look at that. Okay? So this is, now you might say, where did I get this from? Remember I wrote these files and I copied them over to my Google Drive? So let's look and see if we can make sense of all of this. Basically, this was all pics. Remember how we manually searched through here and we found this to be our first JPEG, granted we searched backwards? Well, if I highlight all this stuff, that's exactly what we have right here. So we're almost there. We're trimming away at this little guy to get, ultimately, we want to get just this. All right? So how do we do that? We've trimming it down. We got it down to JPEG found 1. That's what that is. Now we're getting ready to split it. So we want to split it with a comma. And when we split it with a comma, what it's going to do is, this is my understanding, is it's going to do that right there. Or once we do it correctly. But JPEG found 1, split it with a comma, because this is the only item in our new variable JPEG found 1. So split it with a comma. I wrote the file and watch what happens. So when we split it with a comma, I wrote that file and I called it cut. I sent that. That's that file right. No, right here. Okay, we're not quite ready for that yet. Oh yeah. Okay, when we split it with a comma, which we did here, I wrote that file. That was JPEG found 1. So that's this thing here. JPEG found 1, JPEG found 1. HTTP GET. So we're ready to grab a website, but we don't want, or we're ready to grab the picture, but we don't want to grab this whole thing. Basically, when we split it with a comma, what it's going to do is it's going to split up this one. It's going to split it here. Let me show you what's going to happen. It's going to do something like this. It's going to delete that. See that comma there? So it's going to create that one. It's going to create that one. I hope you get the idea. I'm probably going to miss a comma somewhere in here, I'm sure. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. I know it's hard for you to read that or see it. Oh, there's another comma. But you see, and what it's doing here is it's creating separate variables for each one. Well, notice as I did this, remember this is the most current one. This is going to be the last item in this list once we split JPEG found 1. This is JPEG found 1. Once we split it with a comma, that most current JPEG is going to be the last one in this list. Well, what I want to tell Tasker to do then is I want to tell it to get the last item, and there is a little code for that. We take JPEG found 1, which is this file, and parentheses with a less than symbol will pull that one right there. And once we do that, I think I also sent a write file there too. Yeah, look, write file, JPEG found 1 cut, JPEG found 1 cut, boom. That's what all of this stuff is doing. It's pulling that little itty bitty website from here. Notice that website matches that website because it's the last one on the list, which is the most current. But remember, where did all this crap come from? Here. You see what I'm saying? You're picking the information out that you need. It's really cool, in my opinion, if you're into this type of thing. But nonetheless, get that image. So basically, when we do HTTP GET of this thing, it's going to take that, it's going to download it, and I'm going to save it. MIME type image / asterisk, type that in, and your output file. So save it to some folder, and here's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it pic %pic count. You might say, oh, you weren't going to bring that, or you know, it's been a while since I talked about it. But remember, one of the first things we did in this whole task that we created here, we did a pic count, and I said pic count can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, every time we pull a new image, it's going to go pic 1, pic 2, pic 3, pic 4. I don't care whether you're pulling from EarthPorn, SpacePorn, BeachPorn, whatever. We're going to have up to 4 pictures based on how I have it coded. And by you doing this, every time you do it and you send the variable to KLWP, which is our next step, let me click on that. I called it JSON pic pool. That's my custom variable. And look at the tasker string. Basically, it's a file path. And that file path is the same exact file path that I just saved. Let me back up. It's the same exact file path that I saved this HTTP get in. That right there. So you can copy and you can paste it right into here. And we are almost done, folks. So boom, scrolling on along. Notice this is going to be pick 1, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4. Every time you run this task, it's going to update it 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once we send that variable, end if, okay, I didn't even, yeah, you got an if, you got an else, end if, and then we stop. I don't even think you got to put the end if or the stop, but I'll just do it because I'm OCD. But yeah, that should be good to go. Now, I don't have to write these files every single time. This is just for testing purposes, so therefore I'm going to just cut my write files off. It might speed it up a millisecond. Who knows? I really don't. Didn't I have another write file? Yeah, right there. So just powering those down, it skips over it. Everything else, I do want to keep it the same, so I'm going to go ahead and run it, make sure I didn't mess anything up. I don't think I changed anything. Bam. All greens. And now, yeah, okay, we're good. Finally, we're done with the tasker piece. Let's go, whoops, didn't mean to disable tasker. Let's go back into the home screen. Let's go to KLWP. I tell you what, did I add something new in here by chance a while ago? I can't remember. EarthPorn. I forgot to cut off that little flash thing. You see the flash down there, the weather porn down here, but I can go back into Tasker and just power that particular piece off. SpacePorn, did I add SpacePorn? I can't remember. Which one did I add? BeachPorn? Let's find out. Okay, check for new image. So I just pressed check for new image. I pressed it with my finger, but you can actually press it there. And this is the beach pic. So out of all this junk, let's go to BeachPorn. So all I really got to do is change. Now you see what I'm saying? I'm coming here and changing this, but by me, the way we've coded stuff, it's changing the word beach porn to earth porn to nature porn, whatever you want to pick. And is this first one a JPEG? No. Is this one a JPEG? No. Is this one a JPEG? No. Again, I'm looking down here at the bottom left-hand corner on my browser. No. Yes. Okay, that's the first JPEG that's in this list, like a little sunset. Well, let's pull this up and see. There you go. Sweet. All right, let's test another one real quick. Probably the one that gets updated the most is EarthPorn from what I've seen, but I haven't done a whole bunch of browsers. Okay, what do we got here? Moss. Yeah. All right, so that's nature porn. So, you know, by you on the way we have it coded, all we have to do is press a button, but I got to type in nature porn. And let's go through here. Not a .jpeg, no .jpeg, no, 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 no. This may not be a good one to pick because it's not like a, oh, there we go, .jpeg. Moths, huh, the irony. But notice when this picture was submitted 10 days ago, I don't know if you noticed that, but it was submitted 10 days ago. And now let's see what else. Oh yeah, I got to show you how to put this stuff into KLWP. I'm sorry I've had to keep the phone, you know, only on this side of the screen. I had to show you all this coding and stuff, or at least I felt like I needed to. And let's go into KLWP and see what we got to do here. All we have to do is apply some touches. When we touch this, we want to change nature porn to earth porn to whatever we added to it. So I have a little stack group. Oh, that's the wrong one. I've got that one hidden. This is some of my weather underground stuff I was talking about earlier, but all I'm focusing on right now is pulling these images. So current text, or text, current image, nature porn. So look how I have this coded. Current image, nothing special there. But then, remember way back at the beginning of this video, I had a tasker variable that I sent from that which pick task, the first task we looked at, and we called it which pick. And the way we had it coded with, I think it was % which pick, % pick count, which count. I can't remember what. Go back and look. We had it coded right. As you can see, it's saying nature porn. It'll say earth porn or whatever whenever we touch. So speaking of touch, launch shortcut, task shortcut, and the task shortcut that we want to do is which pick. that's what's going to switch those things from nature porn to earth porn to space porn, or whatever things you add to your list. So don't forget that. And then last but not least is check for new image. No coding on check for new image. That's just some text. However, when we touch that thing, launch shortcut, task shortcut, and we want to run that crazy task that we just created. So task shortcut, and I called it JSON pick working. Just one thing to point out to you, when you pick your task, you might get a little error or something. I apply icon. I think that's what you have to do, is an apply an icon down here, so you can tap the bottom right hand corner and pick your icon. But yeah, there you go. There you have it. That is how you can use, and again, before I let you go, let me go back to EarthPorn and show you where you can go get even more. I know EarthPorn has a little piece over here. Some of the other ones might too. And now I'm sitting here, I'm pumped because I felt like that was a pretty good video. Now the internet's being slow. Okay, let's go to nature. You can pick any of these as far as I know. Oh my goodness. I guess Reddit's pissed at me because I've pulled images from it so many times. It's springtime around here, so I'm gonna go to spring. I haven't even clicked on this one. I have not typed anything in the tasker dealing with. I guess it's gonna be spring porn. See, spring porn. And all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go and do new, because this was submitted 1 year ago. Oh, submitted 1 day, 2 days. So I'm gonna go to /new, because that's how I have it coded in Tasker. And these are updated. Okay, 1 day ago. Let's go ahead and see which one is it gonna pull. It's not gonna pull that one because it's not .jpg. Not that one. Not that one. That one. This is the one we should see. All right. So how do I do it? I got to go and add spring porn into Tasker. So I'm going to go to vars, go down to, what do we call it, which pick, put a comma, and let's call it spring porn. Does that match that website? I'm pretty sure that's how it was. Yeah, I'm just going to check that. Press this little guy up here, and now we should be able to touch up here to get to spring porn eventually. Bingo. Let's check and drum roll. There you go. Check it out. Pretty sweet. And by us doing that pick count, you know, naming it 1, 2, 3, 4, it's KLWP is going to pick those images up. Whereas if you named it the same file every time, it does have some lag in it. But there you have it, folks. I really hope you find this useful, because when you start combining this stuff with the extracted colors, and you know, you have some pieces up here, you're talking about a simple boom, changing your image, pulling it from the net, and you saw how long it took. I am on Wi-Fi, but I've been testing it on 4G, and it takes a couple seconds, and as you can see here. But when you start extracting colors, imagine a vibrant color extracted on that, and yeah, let your brain wander. But there you have it. That's how you can extract images from EarthPorn, SpacePorn, NaturePorn, etc. And that's it for this video. I hope it helped.